Hey, what's up? My name's Cameron Doherty here with another tech video. Today I want to talk about the YouTube Premium price increases that just took effect and that are going to impact tons of people all around the world, and why I think that that's indicative of a trend and that this is probably really just the beginning. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I posted a video about YouTube Premium outlining the benefits and explaining how you can avoid overpaying on an iOS device by making sure you subscribe on either a PC or a Google device. So go ahead and check out that video if you don't know about YouTube Premium or if you want to make sure that you're not overpaying. Now let's get to the more current events, because just earlier this month, YouTube announced that their YouTube Premium family plans will be increasing in price, and these price increases vary around the world depending on what region you're in. I'm going to be looking at US specific prices for my video, but ultimately it's relative and should be comparable in your region wherever you happen to be. Now, I want to take a look at it from more of a data analytical perspective, because when these price increases were announced, lots of people came to my previous video and started leaving comments about what they used to be paying and what they would be paying. And there was a lot of people that were upset or angry about the price increase, and understandably, considering no longer remaining subscribed. So all of these comments got me thinking about, how does this actually compare to other similar subscription type services? And how does the pricing structure that Google has laid out align or not align? And this is the data that I wanted to share today. And so the first one I want to look at here is a pretty straightforward comparison. And obviously, there is more to a YouTube subscription than just YouTube Music, but the closest comparison to this type of subscription would be Spotify and Apple Music. They both offer individual plans for a relatively high price, and for just a little bit more, you can get a family plan that offers 6 people having the same benefits. So what you wind up with is a chart that looks like this, showing the price if you were to subscribe for a single person, all the way to if you utilized 6 people, bringing your per person cost down to the lowest point. And you can see here, this is the original pricing of YouTube if you signed up on a non-iOS device. And compared to Spotify and Apple, you're looking at a gap. So we're looking at about $10 for an individual to $12, just to give you kind of relativity here on the chart. And that gradually gets smaller and smaller until at 6, you're very close. You're less than $1 apart between the different services. You can see that the trend line here is very much in line across the 3 services. So I also wanted to take a look at something else, something more outside of this streaming service. So I also pulled together another one that I could think of, which was password management services. And so I pulled in LastPass, OnePass, and NordPass, just as 3 examples, all of which have individual plans, again, and family plans, which let you do either 6 or, in the case of OnePass, only 5. So you can see this one's a little bit less uniform. They're a little bit more all over the place. And we're dealing in smaller numbers, but larger disparities. So you can see that we're talking about $1.50 to $3 on the individual plans. And then they kind of go in slightly different directions. They're all trending down, obviously, but it's not as much of a uniform chart. And so it's an interesting point, a data point here, in the fact that this doesn't really follow the same trend exactly. But I just wanted to make sure I threw in something else outside of sort of the traditional streaming services. So let's get into more detail with our streamers here. First thing that I wanted to call out was just how bad of a deal subscribing through an iOS device was. And I mentioned I've got a previous video, so if you are not paying $12.99 for an individual subscription, if you're paying $15.99, go watch that video and figure out how you can change your subscription. Because as soon as we add in our YouTube iOS, you can see it's a pretty small gap between the 3 different subscriptions. But when you throw in that iOS Apple tax level of YouTube, it is staggeringly higher. It still follows the exact same trend, but it is substantially higher. And this is what I was paying and what I regrettably did not realize I was being overcharged for. And this, I think, is also really important because this sort of Apple tax amount is indicative of where these prices are going. So let's now add in another number here, and let's add in the new YouTube costs. This orange line, which you can't see entirely because it overlaps with the green line that was there, is showing what the new YouTube costs are. So the individual cost has not changed. It remains at $11.99 for a standard one-person subscription. But it's the family plan that has increased. So rather than following this trend downward, it's going almost laterally per person when you add in a second person before following down exactly on the same trend line as the previous iOS numbers. And so now if we add in the iOS rates on the new YouTube, we can see, again, another, I'm assuming 30% jump, because that's what the Apple tax tends to be. And so now we see that same line jump up again. And obviously, as the numbers get bigger, 30% gets bigger too. So you're starting to see an even bigger gap there than what we were seeing from the other lines. So this is interesting because I don't think that this is their end point. I don't think this is what they're looking for, because we saw with the original 3 lines, that uniformity just makes sense. It's incentivizing you to get more people on board. It's incentivizing the family plan, but it's not making it so stark and lateral as you're seeing now. So I can't help but think that we're going to see a price increase for the individual plan once people calm down about the family plan, because I think it's bound to move up to this $15.99 number to get back to that normal shape, that normal balance that they have had in the past. Because right now, this doesn't really make much sense, because it's essentially going from, I think it's $12.99 to $12 per person for 2 people, because it's $24. The trend here, I think a lot of people are rightfully upset. Obviously, you're not comparing apples to apples with these other streaming services. So whether you feel like prices as a whole being in line with Spotify, with Apple Music, with these types of services, whether or not you think they're the same, it's up for debate. Whether you're willing to pay more to get all of the YouTube content plus YouTube Music on top of that, and the different ad-free features that come with YouTube Premium, depending on how much you're willing to pay for that, the increase in the line may or may not make sense. But either way, I think once I saw it visualized in this way of going from a nice smooth curve to a weird shaped from 1 to 2, I just knew this is not the end. And this also brought to mind, and really the kicker for me to make this video was the fact that just a couple of days ago, Apple had their earnings call announcement, and one of the things that made headlines was the disappointment in YouTube and the numbers going down in YouTube. And putting my business hat on, it becomes a little bit more clear. So Apple, I'm saying Apple, I think, instead of Google. I definitely did it at least once. Apologies if I did it before. You know, if I'm talking about YouTube, I mean Google. And so Google's increase comes right before their earnings call. So if they're showing struggling numbers, struggling revenue, struggling ad rates, whatever it may be on the YouTube product, they're about to report externally and they want to show positive projections. And one way to do that is to increase their rates. Now, obviously there's going to be some churn. They're going to lose some members when they increase rates. But if they increase it to the right point, then that projection at least can be a positive outlook for the future and something that they can be nice and rosy about and help make sure that their stock price continues to go up. And so I think that that's a big driver here, is that they're looking at a very much a timing factor, because this sort of came out of nowhere. I don't think anyone was expecting this price increase. It just suddenly appeared, and I think that the reason for that was struggling earnings, and they wanted to make sure that they were projecting into the future. And if I had to guess, I would think that they probably just saw more opportunity in increasing the family plan. Maybe they thought they would get less pushback because on a per person basis, it's less of an impact. But ultimately, I cannot help but think that within the next 6 months, maybe even this quarter, so maybe even within the next 3 months, we're probably going to see an increase somewhere in the order on the individual plan of $11.99 to $15.99. And so if that happens, then we're probably going to lose even more people, but hopefully we won't lose you. So if you are a YouTube Premium subscriber or you're just a regular YouTube viewer, I appreciate you being here and watching my videos and choosing to listen to me talk through this. I did want to make sure that I shared the numbers that I was using. I'm sure people are probably looking at what exactly I'm comparing, and so I did throw in the original numbers here. I wanted to make sure I shared them with you guys. Please do let me know in the comments. I tried my best to make sure I grabbed the right US rates, but sometimes these things can be a little bit tricky. So just let me know if I mixed anything up. If there's major corrections I need to make, I'll make sure I have a pinned comment explaining what those are. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative, and I'm curious what you think. So let me know down in the comments as well. Are you a subscriber? Are you leaving? Do you not care? Like, where do you fall on this spectrum? And what do you think? Is this the last price increase for a while, or are we going to see the $15.99 jump for individuals really soon, like I think? Either way, if you enjoy what you see, remember that the likes are always free and the subs don't cost anything either. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.